And we are live. We're live for the first episode of the Channel CEO podcast, live cast. And I'm honored to have Alton Johnson as our first CEO on the show. Welcome.
I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it. Very excited, and yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. So we don't know really where we're going to go with this. So I told him backstage, beforehand that it's not going to be sappy. Tell me all the details of your childhood, but we're going to get into that. We're going to get into kind of what uh, what made you who you are today, and where you've come from, and where you're going, and we might shed a couple tears along the way, but we'll see. I guess it remains to be seen. So, all right, so let's jump into it. So. Um, let's just start with kind of the background. Tell us about yourself, where you're from, where'd you go to school, where'd you grow up?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana, and I initially got into not cybersecurity. It wasn't a profession at 11, but really just on a computer a lot. And I had a really large passion for like computers since I was 11 years old. I was your kid who was just, I went to school just because I had to, right? And when I got back home, I just wanted to get on a computer all the time. And so I did that for a while. Somebody actually hacked me at one point and showed me how they did it. And so I got super excited about that. Surprisingly, the person that did it to me, they told me, "Hey, I hacked you, and here's how I did it." And I don't know why anybody would ever do that, but it changed my life, right? So from that point on, I uh, I grew a passion into with like just hacking. Really just curious about like what can I learn from this? Like how do I get access to a computer, things like that. So I was in New Orleans for for a while. I realized you could actually get paid to hack as I got much older. But so I was in New Orleans up until Hurricane Katrina and moved to Baton Rouge, and that's kind of where I continued. I think I was around 13 or 14 or so at the time, and went to school up there to a school called Louisiana Technical College, and mostly just studied for computer networking. So it wasn't anything hacking related. It was just really just your average, how do I fix computers, troubleshoot them, how do I build them, tear them back down, things like that. And I started off there. I think I was 16 at the time, so I was surrounded by a lot of like, just a lot of smarter people. Um, in the room. So lived in Baton Rouge for quite a while, and then I finally moved up here to Atlanta back in mid 2019. And this is where home. I guess you could say home 2.0 is going to be going forward.
Awesome. Yeah, we were talking to you just bought a new house there. Congratulations.
Yeah,
Um,
appreciate that.
yeah, so take us back to the I guess the computer, the early days of the computer. What fascinated about computers, and was it an escape, or what was the curiosity that kind of, or what was the spark that lit the curiosity?
Yeah, I think with computers at the time, the thing that excited me the most is that I could learn to be creative and do things that I didn't see a lot of other people doing, right? So, for example, get on a computer, you want to hack somebody, you have to become creative. You have to figure out, all right, how do I trick this person into clicking on a file, and then once they do that, how do I get access to their computer? And from that point on, like, what can I do on their computer? Can I open up their CD-ROM? So there's a tool back then that a lot of other pen testers and security researchers will be familiar with called Sub7 and ProRat. And these were tools that allowed you to, once you got access to somebody's computer, you could literally click buttons to do a lot of crazy stuff. So, for example, you could click a button to open up the CD-ROM and then close it. You can click another button to print out stuff on a printer. You could literally black out the entire screen and just bring up a chat window, kind of like the Matrix, so you can like talk to the person that you hacked. So I mean, as a kid, like that is exciting. You know what I mean? And so I just became super addicted to like just being able to do that to the point to where I wanted to learn. Like, all right, I'm using this tool, Sub7. Like, how do I create something very similar to this? How do I like contribute to this process? And so I started learning, Visual Basics, very old programming language, and became addicted to the ability to like create things that, just out of thin air. It was really cool for me because I didn't have to wait until I got much older to go to college and get a job, all of that like crazy stuff as a kid, right? I could just come home after school and like create something that I would have never created had I not known how to code. Um, so I became like super, super addicted to it. You know, like my mom had to like force me to go to sleep because I was just up at night trying to figure out how to like create new stuff, how to, how to hack the next person, how do I make the next person, like, how do I get more access to their computer for a longer period of time, persistence. So I just became super addicted to just hacking. It was just, I don't know, it was very cool. You see it on TV, but to actually do it was really exciting at the time.
Yeah, it because of the simple things. It actually must have been a kind of a rush to figure out that you can actually mess with somebody's CD-ROMs that are sitting at their their little desktop, right? The thing's just popping in and out, and probably driving them absolutely nuts.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's obviously it freaks people out. It used to freak people out at the time, and like that's like three of like 30 different things that the tool allowed you to do. And so it was so hard to not just want to explore and just see the reaction. Like, are they gonna say something to me after I open up the CD-ROM? Like, are they gonna notice that their CD-ROM opened up? Like, what are they gonna tell me? It's just this whole cool thing of like I can screw with somebody,
Yeah,
screw
yeah,
with the computer and see something from it. So
that's
that's really
awesome.
cool. Yeah.
So, you're it sounds like you're kind of a Doogie Howser type. So you're in college a little early. You said 16, something like that, or technical school 16.
Yeah, yeah. So actually, so I'm not afraid to admit, but I have my GED. And so for me as a kid, so it's kind of funny too, because as a kid, I was so addicted to the computer that school was just always boring to me, right?
Mm.
I'm not sure about other schools, but like in New Orleans, we had to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go sit in classes, and I was just a kid who was just like, I don't care about physical education at the time. I don't want to sit in history class, or I just want to get in front of a computer so I could like explore this new passion of mine. I don't care about all of the rest of the stuff. So at 16, I actually got my GED, and of course, like with all parents, it was one of those things where it's like you got to go to school, you got to get a job, and so went to Louisiana Technical College, and I mean, I literally killed it in school. I mean, I was teaching other students. I
Wow.
was, when I say addicted, I mean, I was addicted to computers. Like, I just wanted to be around them. I just wanted to teach other people. I just wanted to like learn as much as I could about them. So when I went to school at the time, it's very interesting how like life changes, but they told me at the time that programming wasn't really like going to be a thing that was going to take off. Cybersecurity wasn't really going to be a crazy thing, and and so they only offered like computer networking. So that's kind of where I was going, like the route of like managing servers and stuff like that, trying to figure out like that whole area of like technology. But yeah, so after that, I immediately started working in tech, kind of on the other side. So I was working at a credit union, and also LSU, just in IT, helping out with like basic computer troubleshooting and stuff like that. And it was at that time where we actually we hired a cybersecurity company to come in and do a security assessment. And when I saw the guy come in and started doing stuff, I was like, dude, where do you work? Talk to me. Like, I'm the guy. Like, how do I get on? Right? So I just literally started applying just back to back, reaching out to everybody. I want to talk to people. How do I get into the job? And I mean, I made it very obvious that I was desperate to start working there.
Wow, that's awesome. Look, I think that's going to be if I had to put money at it, I think it's going to be a recurring theme with the CEOs, the entrepreneurs of I think that the school trend line is going to be a recurring theme because very similar where my background. I mean, it's hard for me to sit still. It's hard for me to be engaged. I probably only like one or two subjects. Barely got out of high school. I mean, barely got out of high school. Um, and then it was the interest level, right? And it just I didn't find passion until a little bit later in life and found this whole bug for entrepreneurship. So I think it's going to be a recurring theme. So I think you set the bar right there. So that's a great matriculation and kind of sounds like you kind of found this next piece of the puzzle. Um, take us up to between then and founding the company and tell us we'll get into the company in a minute, but take us through get those gap years. What led you
Yeah,
down this path of being an entrepreneur?
yeah, absolutely. So when I got my first opportunity to work as a penetration tester, I mean, when I tell you I embraced it to the fullest, I mean, I was literally working in the daytime, going home at night, studying books, courses, like nonstop. I mean, you would have thought that I had a problem. And so, I became very like familiar with the stuff that I was doing in the daytime to the point to where I started like kind of collaborating with other pen testers, and at some point I was even kind of showing them some stuff because I was just super hooked. And obviously, when I was 19 or 18, 19 at the time, and so I was just no kids, fresh out of school, didn't really have a lot of responsibilities, and so I had a lot of time on my hands to just like learn as much as I could about computers. And so, I grew within the company pretty quickly because of all of the studying and stuff like that, and really, started kind of taking some certification exams like OSCP, which at the time, OSCP was just like the the one certification that if you had, I mean, you were just like a pen tester in God mode. Like
Mhm.
everybody just looked at you and just like, hey, like you can work anywhere you want. Um, I never forget, like one of my interviews shortly after that was basically, "Hey, I see that you have your OSCP. I'm not going to ask you anything stupid about your strengths, your weaknesses, what you do on the weekends. I don't care. Like, I see that you have your OSCP. I just want to set you up with an exam over the weekend, and I want you to present this to me the following week. And depending on how you do, we'll either decide to hire you or we'll have to not look into this opportunity." And I took the exam. I mean, I took the practical exam, like the test, like lab environment, and you know, killed it. Started working there, and so when I was working there as a pen tester, we did a lot of penetration testing for like larger clients, so like major companies that you typically would go to at least once or twice a week. And throughout the process of like being a pen tester, there's just a lot of things that like for me, I'm always looking to like make things better. Like how do I like I don't like to repeat myself a lot of times when it comes to like certain tasks.
Mhm.
And so I've always just had these ideas about like, you know, why does writing reports really like, and I love typing. So a person like me, you wouldn't expect me to like not want to type, right? But when it came to like report writing, it was one of those things that just seemed super repetitive, and there was many ways that you could automate some of the workflows of like writing a report. And depending on it's very driven by manual efforts, and one person may feel one way a certain day, they may not feel it the same way next week, so the report might require different little a little bit of revisions. It's not an efficient process, and so I've always just thought to myself like, why aren't we automating reports? Like, why do I have to change the severity from a high to a medium? Why do I have to open up Excel?
Hmm.
Why do I have to open up, Microsoft Word, change it into, change a few different charts, a different, a couple of different tables, recalculate? It seems kind of silly. We're hacking companies, like really large companies, and we're sitting here like, clicking little buttons to change icons. It just didn't make a lot of sense to me. Like we should be able to be more creative to make this a better process. And so I've always had that idea to automate reports. And even in my next company after that, we kind of had very similar struggles. And I realized at that time, you know what, this is a problem that a lot of cybersecurity companies have. We really, as an industry, suck at making report writing very efficient. And so that's kind of what got me started with creating my own code that would automate reports. And it got to the point to where I was studying how Microsoft Word documents are created, how to tear them down, how to rebuild them, how to copy, things without having to interact with them from Microsoft Word, to the point where I was automating reports and no one even knew it.
Wow.
So to me, that proved that, hey, it's possible to automate something and deliver the same quality as I would manually because no one could tell the difference.
Mm. Yeah. I bet you
So,
I'm nodding my head. So if those who are watching can see me agreeing with you, but I bet everybody listening, or watching or what have you is probably also nodding their head saying, how repetitive and how much time is wasted, time suck of manually generating reports time and time again. So I love the arc here, right? Because you got kind of passion, you had some of this, kind of critical moments as you're matriculating, and then you got the bug to solve a problem. So that's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. Um,
exactly.
so yeah, again, I think there's going to be some pretty interesting themes as we progress with episodes. But um, any specific daily routines or habits? I mean, you talk about eliminating things. Are you a process person? Do you have to do the same thing the same way every morning, or do you get up at a certain time? Any quirky entrepreneurial or CEO things that you do?
You know, I, I'm working on like trying to develop some better habits. Because right now, basically, I work up. I mean, I work up. Well, I work a lot apparently. So, I wake up, take the dog out, eat breakfast, stuff like that, and kind of get straight into work. And but I used to, and it's been like kind of waves, right? Like I would find myself getting into a particular routine, works out really well, and then things get super crazy. And obviously, as a small business, you have those kind of roller coasters, but yeah, I mean, I've just recently bought some gym equipment. We obviously just moved, so there's a nice place to go jogging and stuff like that. So I'm really trying to get back into fitness and kind of get my daily routines back on track. So there's a lot of work there. I mean, at some point, I would love to become like other CEOs and wake up at 3 in the morning. Start working out and be ready by 5 o'clock and all of that. But yeah, it's definitely a work in progress.
It's funny. We went through an exercise with our management team about a week and a half ago. Actually, our VP of sales brought this up. He said, everyone bring up personal goal that you're trying to accomplish. And one of my goals was to wake up at 4:30 every morning, and because it's for me at least, that's the time I feel like I'm the most productive, and
Mhm.
the kids aren't up yet, and the dog's not up yet, so I'm not taking the dog out yet, and I feel like I can get a lot done. And I think I'm about maybe batting 500. I think most of the days I'm getting up about 5:30. I've tried 4:30 a couple of times. It wasn't that bad, but it's just hard to be consistent that early. Just so I don't know. It's if you're shooting for 3 o'clock in the morning, man, God bless you.
Well,
That's pretty
yeah.
intense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really shooting for like maybe like 5, but you hear people talk about their routines. They're like, "Yeah, I wake up at 1 in the morning, work out, drink coffee," and it's just like, dude, how you wake up so early? But
Crazy, crazy.
yeah.
The promise we'll get to the business in a minute, but um, let's talk. So I think I hear some themes about successes. Is there any particular success or win or kind of moment that stands out in your mind that was just impactful or kind of helped develop who you are?
Yeah, honestly, I would say the biggest thing that I feel like has impacted my life as a business owner is really just the shift from like stopping where I was working full time into kind of starting the business. Because for me personally, I never intended on starting a business. It was never a go. Like I just got so frustrated with like doing things manually that, and it's kind of funny too, because right after I parted ways with my last company, I had an interview, and I had to stop the interview and just say, you know what, I appreciate everybody's time, but I can't do this. Like this is going to be the same thing as the last few. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So I kind of went out and said, you know what, it was that day. I literally went to the store, bought a laptop, and I said, you know what? I don't care what happens in my life. As long as I have this laptop, I will figure out a way to make this work. I don't care if I'm in a car, like sleeping. I don't care. Like, if I can find Wi-Fi with this laptop, I'll be good. Um, and so for me, it was, and I'm sure you can relate too, but like, I went through like a lot of like just challenges, like in every capacity, mentally, emotional, just trying to figure out, all right, how do I get in front of people? Like I'm the person that's usually behind a computer. So how do I get in front and like try to sell myself to people? Like I've never been in sales at the time, you know what I mean? So it was really just a very interesting challenge and having to deal with like public speaking and just put yourself out there, do things you would never expect to do, um, typically working somewhere, and just kind of m- embarrassing yourself for the sake of trying to like pay bills and figure out, all right, how do I make this work? So for me, that was like the biggest challenge that I've gone through that I feel like has made the most amount of impact to me as a person because I don't feel like I would have gone through that in any other scenario. And I think a lot of that has to do with kind of like how I look at life today and just, if you want to take, I look at risk a lot differently as well based on stuff like that. So that's really, I would say like my biggest success prior to the business is really that transition phase and just learning who I am and what can I take and how do I mature as a person in the world of business so that I could like speak to and go to conferences and just the whole process of like interacting with people, which
Yeah,
is a lot different when you're a pen tester.
it is right. I mean, that's kudos to you because it's hard for anybody to kind of put on that persona or
Mhm.
get out of their comfort zone. But you know, especially ones that are really, you know, maybe more introverted. If it's all I need is a computer and just get out of my way. but then to open yourself up and have to sell yourself and be vulnerable. I mean, it's a hard thing to do, so kudos to
Yeah.
you on that transition. Are there any particular moments that I wouldn't call them failures or challenges in the past that just lit a fire or motivate you, or anything come to mind?
Yeah, I would say it's really mostly the rejections that I got as a entrepreneur, basically trying to start a business, right? Because you know, trying to start a business, at least for me, I didn't have a plan at the time. I didn't like again, I didn't plan on becoming a business owner. I just stumbled upon like I don't want to work at another cybersecurity company, so I have to figure something out. But there's a lot of rejection, right? You put yourself in situations to be vulnerable. You try to show up places that won't like say yes to you, but you try anyway, just to cross it off the list. But for me, a lot of those rejections have turned into like motivation because it's like, all right, you don't want to work with me. I promise you, your mind, like you'll change your mind in a few years, and you're gonna wish that you did work with me, right? So I kind of like turn all of those rejections into like I'll prove that you made the wrong decision today. Later, just wait. So I literally converted a lot of those like those quote unquote failures or rejections into like motivation and fire to say, all right, this is how it's gonna be. All right, let's get going. I'm going to prove all these people wrong, and we'll see if you feel the same way in a few years. So yeah.
That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. You're able to harness that and turn it into motivation like that, man. That's great. That's great stuff. All right, so we've been teasing this company, and I'm sure those tuning in know a little bit about you. But tell us the name of your company, and I think we all kind of maybe have an understanding of what you might do. But why don't you give us the pitch here real quick?
Yeah, so the name of the company is Vonahi Security, and we automate network penetration testing. And I mean, as you can imagine, it started off with automating reports. And so, that was the initial goal was to automate reports for myself as a pen tester. But then I started automating a lot of the penetration test stuff. And eventually, we got our first demo. Somebody just happened to ask somebody else, did they hear about us? And they got on the phone with us, and they're like, "Hey, I heard you're trying to like automate reports and pen testing. Could we use the plot? Like, do you have anything that we can use?" And so that's kind of how Vonahi Security got started, right? We already had the idea of automating reports, automating a lot of the things that I was doing manually as a penetration tester, but it turned into other MSPs wanting to, they wanted to feel the same excitement that I was feeling behind automation. They wanted to offer the same thing. So we automate network penetration testing, right? We have a platform that is 100% self-service, and we focus mostly on like exploitation, post-exploitation. There's a lot of companies and out there in the world that mention automated pen testing, and you peel back the layers, it's just a vulnerability scan and some other stuff. But we are very heavily focused on like exploitation. So the ultimate goal of the platform is to basically bring down the cost of penetration testing, which is super expensive at the moment because of a lot of the human effort that's required to execute those services, and then also make it more continuous, right? So in the past, I'm a pen tester that's used to doing pen test engagements once a year for all of the customers that I used to work for, and so because we're able to automate penetration testing, we can offer it more continuously, right? So you don't have to worry about, you did a pen test in January, something crazy comes out in February. Now you're wondering, hey, does that affect me? Now you can actually do it today. You don't have to call somebody and talk to John and schedule it out for 2 weeks. And, it's so we're changing that entire process of like, hey, I need a pen test. When can we get it done? To making it automated, more continuous, more affordable, and more repeatable too. So, but yeah, that's what we do. We're an automated penetration testing company for networks.
That's awesome. I mean, just this whole arc is just so cool. I mean, started from a kid, kind of, finding a passion, having some, pivotal moments, and then letting the entrepreneurial bug, and then finding a problem that you needed to solve or a need out there, and then executing on it. I mean, sounds like you guys are going in the right direction pretty quick. With that, I have to ask you, because every CEO has a something that keeps them up at night, or just something they're always worried about. Anything as you progress, anything that dogs you or keeps you up at night, or that you're just really trying to solve?
I think for me personally, I'm typically just like flooded with a lot of ideas, right? Like it started off as just automated reports. We're going to automate pen testing. Then we're going to put a framework like our front into it. And so, as we have more partners that use the platform, I'm just obsessed with like efficiency and simplicity, right? So the more I see people using the platform, the more I look at it and I'm just going, all right, how can we make this even easier? Like it's already 100% self-service, but I still want it to be easier, right? I'm the kind of person to where like if something, if and being a developer as well, like I know, I can kind of understand things that could take a little bit shorter in time spent, and it can run it complete within a shorter time. And so typically for me, if there's something that I see in the platform that could be faster, right, I'll do that. So that's things like that. Keep me up at night. Like I'll be get ready to go to sleep, and I'll just have a random thought like, that's interesting. Maybe I can automate that, make that a little bit faster. So I get to like going on this rabbit hole of like, all right, creating enhancement requests for our team so we can work on that. But nothing bad keeps me up at night. It's really just like ideas and ways that we could bring more value to our partners, by making things a little bit faster and easier. I mean, for me, just shaving off like 5 minutes of a process is like a huge win because I know at scale that's a lot of time, right? And I know when I used to do this manually, like, I mean, it was just, you multiply all of the manual efforts times 40, 50 consultants, and you shave off like 20, 30 minutes. That's a lot of time over a period of a year, right? So, yeah, just have a lot of ideas that, I mean, that's the only thing that keeps me up at night is how can we make this product better, faster, more efficient, for our partners. It
It's
sounds
awesome.
cheesy, but it's just,
No, like I mean, it's hard to turn it off. To your point, right? When you're constantly trying to develop something, and you see areas of optimization. Yeah, that I think that's something that every creative, every entrepreneur struggles with, and so I can again certainly relate. So you guys are starting to get sounds like some pretty good traction in the marketplace. I mean, what does a company look like in a year from now or 3 years from now?
yeah. So, um, we basically want to become the go-to company for automated penetration testing. There's a lot of companies out there that, if you're not using them, you're kind of like, that's, who are the other three that you're probably using, right? We want to be one of those vendors that are like first to, for MSPs to think about whenever they think about penetration testing, kind of like Tenable or, Rapid Fire, or Rapid 7. You look at those tools and you're like, everyone is using one of like the 4 or 5 like major vulnerability scanners out there,
Right.
right? And I mean, of course, there's a lot more, but there's like the major ones. And so we want to become that, right? We want to become that. Hey, you're not using Vonahi for pen testing? Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you, what else are you using, or what else could be possible? So we really want to, stay on track to make sure that we're ahead of the curve, when it comes to competition and stuff like that. So yeah.
Cool. Very cool. So we'll start winding this down. I'll ask you a couple more questions here, if you don't mind. What what do you think is something that the industry could be? Somebody in security, could be an MSP business owner. What's one thing that the industry or somebody in the industry needs to master over the next year? Like what could be anything.
Yeah. Um, I would really just say, at least from the security side, one of the things that we need to stay ahead of is basically, well, obviously your threats that come out all the time, but also the processes that we have implemented within the company to like address these problems, right? Because if you look at like penetration testing, there is a problem, but automation. We're seeing automation in different industries. You've got cars driving themselves. You've got restaurants preparing meals automatically. All kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And so, like that is the process that I think, as security professionals, at least in the security, obviously in the security industry, that we want to like stay ahead of. Like, how do we make the process of like identifying vulnerabilities and issues and even addressing them a lot faster? Because, you know, the, there are, we could get into this phase of like it's not possible to automate, but I think in our industry, in technology, security, we should always keep in mind that it's always possible to automate. The question is how, right? How do we get there? And so I think that's going to be the key for us to stay ahead, and just keep the industry moving forward and not like fall behind. And you're the last person to kind of like jump to, hey, oh, automation, what's that? I mean, AI, that's the thing. Oh, how do I? So you want to be like ahead of that, right? So, but yeah. I would say that that's super important for us to stay up to speed on and make sure that we're always constantly thinking about better ways to make that process a lot better from both the hacking side of things and also from the defending and protecting side of things as well.
Well, I certainly agree with that. So I think with that, I mean, if we'll wrap this up, but I got to tell you, look, you set the bar awfully high for being the first guest on the show. So I really want to thank you for joining me and sharing your story. I think hopefully others in the industry, just in general, will find it just as fascinating as I've found it. I mean, it's so great to hear. It might be reassuring, especially to the entrepreneurs and the other CEOs listening, that you know everybody goes through an iteration or some of the same struggles as an entrepreneur, as a creative, and trying to solve problems and adding value to the world. So I'm certain that everyone's going to appreciate your story. On that note, where can we find you? What's the best way to find you out there online?
Yeah, so you can go to our website. Is Vonahi.io. So that's Vonahi.io. So you could definitely check us out and kind of get a look at the platform. And we do offer free proof of concepts as well. So you could basically sign up. You don't even have to talk to anybody. You can sign up, just get an invite, shoot us an email, and you can sign up into the portal, perform your first pen test, kind of look at the results, compare it to your last pen test, or just kind of just figure out, hey, like, is this something that we could use to benefit our customers? And so we do a free proof of concept for that. And yeah, I would definitely recommend checking us out and giving us a shot because I think, the space that we're in today, it's going to be very interesting in another year or two from now. I can promise you that when it comes to automated pen testing. I mean, right now, it's pretty new to the market. I mean, a few years, but in another year or two, it's going to be pretty wild. So.
Yeah. Well, I love the fact you're blazing the trail. So well done to you. Well, so with that,
Appreciate it.
we'll end our show. And again, I want to thank you so much for agreeing to be my guinea pig here and kicking this thing off. But look, I couldn't
Yeah.
ask for a better guy to do it. So I really appreciate it. And thanks for everybody for tuning in. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Sweet. We appreciate it.